This is your brother Xavier. You're on my channel, Living Life Without Sight. And I'm here with my Sister Dawn Muhammad from Newark, New Jersey. It's a former captain of Newark, and the first East Coast captain of the MGT in the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam. Today, we're going to have a fireside chat. We're just going to have a conversation. And my sister Dawn, she's going to give a little brief history about herself, and then we're going to take from there. Sister Dawn, it's on you.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, Brother Xavier. First, want to say thank you so much for inviting me to have this fireside chat with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
A little bit about myself. I really don't like to talk about myself. However, for the sake of clarity, I will say I came into the nation formally in 1979, early 79, as just Sister Dawn coming into the nation, and then eventually became the captain of a study group at first, because, you know, we just did study groups. We didn't have the mosques at that time. So I became the MGT captain of the sisters in the East Orange, New Jersey area before we became Newark. And then graduated as time went on, became the first East Coast regional captain of the Nation of Islam. And so, and then once doing that, I still remained captain of the MGT and GCC in Mosque number 25 in Newark. And then went down to Plainfield and was the captain in Plainfield. And then went on to get married, have children, and relinquished my captainship because there were a number of things that were going on. And I'm still here. All
yes,
praise
ma'am.
to Allah. Yes, sir.
Still standing. All praise due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's take it from the beginning. Tell me some of your early stories and histories in the very, very beginning that you can remember.
Of course, we're going back about 40 some odd years now. Yeah, so it's okay. I mean, I'm thankful to Allah to even be here and to be able to say that, you know. So
yes, ma'am. That's right.
Going back, it takes us to Brother Kareem's, who was Brother Linward at the time, takes us back to Plainfield, New Jersey. And the minister always talks about Plainfield, where we started off in a plain field at the home of Brother Linward and his wonderful, wonderful wife, Sister Rosemary. Many people know them both now as Brother Kareem, Abdul Kareem Muhammad, and Sister Karima. And Brother Kareem is affectionately known as the General.
Come on.
Right. And so, you know, those of us who came up with him know and understand why we call him the General, because he was, in fact, a general in the army, and he made soldiers. He made soldiers, he made warriors, he made fighters, he made lovers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so, my humble beginning began in his living room, like so many others of us. Sister Ava, Brother Wali, may Allah be pleased with him. Brother Wazir, may Allah be pleased with him. Sister Captain, Sister Aisha Muhammad, who at the time was Sister Tony X. Sister Jana, East Coast Regional Captain presently of the East Coast. So a lot of people went through Plainfield, New Jersey in a simple living room.
That's right.
And then exploded into the entire East Coast regional area. So those were the humble beginnings. And we met there. He didn't even have furniture in his house. He didn't decorate his home or whatever. He put chairs in his home and had as many as maybe 50 people sitting in his living room while we opened up Message to the Black Man and studied and had discussions. And that's what, you know, the study groups were in-house discussions at the time.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yes, sir.
Many people don't know the first study group was the Message to the Black Man.
Absolutely.
We would read a couple of paragraphs and stop and then discuss what the messages said in Message to the Black Man. That was the first study group.
That was the first study group. And that was really something that all of us really had. You know, a lot of us were coming in for the first time, didn't know anything about, you know, the structure of the nation. I mean, I personally didn't, you know, I didn't know that there was captains and lieutenants. All I knew is that from knowing who the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was in the first and listening to him on the radio at night, I knew, and then when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad left, I knew that I wanted that back. And I know I was a part of it because I had to be what you call closet Muslim, because at the age of like 10, 11, and 12, my father raised us as Catholics. And so he was not having no Islam in his house, you know. And so I had to listen to the minister secretly. And so I said, when I became 18, I was going to be a member of the Nation of Islam. So,
yes, ma'am.
So,
yes. You mentioned that famous living room in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
And you put out a very beautiful post about one of our unsung heroes who lived in that house. You want to take it a little further?
Yes, you are talking about Brother Kareem's wife.
That's right.
Sister Rosemarie, also known as Sister Karima. Yes. I have to refer to Sister Rosemarie as my mother. And I'm sure that many of us coming through those doors on 2nd Street would have to refer to her as our mother also. She was my first introduction into what an MGT and GCC was, because I had no idea what one was. She taught us hospitality. She taught us cooking. She taught us how to deal with a husband, just by the way she dealt with Brother Kareem. She would have us, you know, come into her home, or Brother Kareem, let's put it that way. Sister Rosemarie wouldn't even know they were coming until the last minute. And Brother Kareem would call and say, Rosemarie, I got 5, 6 brothers coming over. Can you put something together? And she would cook up chicken, fish, just whip it up out of nowhere. And brothers and sisters would come into the home. She would put out a spread, serve the tables, never saw her frown, always with a smile, you know, gave the greetings. The sisters that came in, she made us feel at home. And she showed us what a sister was. And to this day, I could never thank Allah enough for her, for opening up her home and for just loving us as believers. And she nurtured us. She would tell sisters, you know, no, you don't do things this way, you know, or, you know, sisters, we have to do this. And, you know, so she was very, very pivotal in what went on the East Coast. She made sure that Brother Kareem, you know, she took care of him, made sure that he went out looking his best. You know, I was at the home a lot of times, and I've watched her get bags together with suits, you know, made sure that his suit was pressed and clean. She said, we have to send Brother Kareem out looking 100% correct as a representative of the nation for the minister. And so that was something that she took a lot of pride in. But a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful sister. And she will always have to be remembered. When the history of the nation is written, Sister Rosemarie will have to be remembered as one of the first women on the East Coast to stand up and help in the rebuilding process of the nation.
That's right. And the thing that you said, I always remember about her, no matter what time we came, and I know I came a few times, and I know that from Newark, New Jersey, and all parts of the East Coast,
right.
It was traffic all day and night during the week. Every time I was there, she always greeted us with a smile.
Always, never, nothing but a smile. Absolutely. And like you said, any time of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know.
A smile and good food. Always.
Oh, the best food. And the best bean pie on the East Coast.
People don't know that.
Right. I learned, she taught me how to make bean pie. And every time I make it and I make some money off of it, I'd say all praise is due to Allah for Sister Rosemarie, because if it were not for her, I would have been making a bean pie, but I would not have been making it correct. And I wouldn't be able to brag about mine the way I do, because yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
Okay, I didn't know you make bean pies. You make a good one?
I make one of the best. You know,
if you have to say so.
I make the butternut squash too, and I have people knocking on my door to get to it, so I can't.
Wow. I haven't had a butternut in a while.
Well, next time you're back up in Jersey, make sure you get one.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Brother Captain Sterling and I used to be in competition all the time.
Praise be to Allah. It's so funny you mentioned that. We just saw his wife Thursday. Today is Friday. Yes, yesterday. She came to the mosque yesterday. And she was taking orders for her famous carrot cake.
Oh, they used to make a dynamite carrot cake.
Yeah, she still does.
Absolutely. Yep, Sister Wanda.
Does. Yes, Sister Wanda, yes.
Yes, sir. And they came a long ways too. I met Sister Wanda and Brother Sterling. We had one of the nation's first laborers meetings. we got in cars. Of course, everybody wasn't flying. We got in caravans of cars and drove all the way to the Chicago area. This was the first time I saw the wives of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sister Evelyn, Mother Evelyn, I apologize, Mother Tynetta, and met Brother Ishmael, who was a little teenager at the time. And that's where I met Sister Wanda and Brother Sterling. And that's when Brother Sterling announced that he was coming to the Newark area.
Right.
You know, so, but that was a powerful meeting as well too, you know, just how the laborers meetings were set up at that particular time when we used to go.
Yeah, those are humble beginnings.
Very, very, very humble.
Tell me your early stories about meeting with the minister and traveling.
Yeah, I had a couple of different meetings with the minister. One of them was time that Brother Kareem and I drove with him up to Boston area for a lecture that he had, and so that was a good 5 hours of driving and just listening to conversation that he was having with Brother Kareem. And just, you know, just hearing him talk about the teachings and, you know, what, you know, and mind you, now this was back in the late 70s. So, yeah, so just hearing his excitement about how he loved the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and, you know, the work that we were going to have to put in and what we were going to have to do. I did my first security post with him. He just stopped the car and he had to relieve himself. And I mentioned to Brother Kareem, I was like, aren't you going to go into the bathroom with him? And Brother Kareem was like, no, he's a grown man. He can handle himself. And I was like, well, somebody got to go protect him. So I went out, got out of the car, didn't go to the restroom, but waited outside the restroom area for him. He went to use the payphone. We didn't have cell phones back then.
Yes, ma'am.
You had to put 20 cents or 50 cents, whatever the call was going to cost you to make your phone call. And I was like watching him while he was on the phone, and a couple of men were walking towards him, not to come towards him, but I didn't know. And so I like paced myself. Every time they moved, I moved, type of thing. And so, and for that reason, at one of the laborers meetings, he mentioned to the believers that I was his best security.
Wow.
So, because I mean, I didn't know anything, but I knew I wasn't going to let anything happen to him at that particular time. So, so we drove up to Boston, met his mom, and then on the way home, it was icy, and he was navigating, coming down the hills through the ice, and just praying and singing to Allah to just guide us back to, you know, where we were going to keep us safe. So it was just a couple really nice, intimate things. One thing I will say, another time I was out with him, Brother Kareem and Sister Karima, and do you remember the blue car that Brother Kareem had? The real long Cadillac-like car.
That was after the Seville?
Yes. Well, he always had the Seville, but he had that little Cadillac too, to in case the minister came to town.
Oh, the one the minister called the dump truck?
Right.
The dump truck.
The one that Brother Melvin the one that Brother Melvin fixed up.
Right, so, exactly.
So I was sitting in front of them. You know, they had the little belt seat in the front, and didn't know that I had strings hanging out of my headpiece. And so the minister touched my headpiece and he was like, Sister Dawn, do you have a pair of scissors or something? Because you maybe you don't know that you have some strings hanging from your headpiece. And I was just like mortified. I said, oh my God. And so then he says to me, you know, you have to be careful when you leave the home. You know, always, you know, check yourself before you leave, because remember who you're representing. You know, so he said, so make sure you cut your, you know, your strings and you make sure that you look perfect. And then he said, and teach the sisters, you know, when they leave their homes, to make sure that they have checked themselves so they can be right and exact when they go out to represent. So I went right straight to MGT class next Tuesday night. And I told them, I said, look, I don't want none of y'all to be embarrassed the way I was embarrassed. You know, the minister was very, very beautiful the way he corrected me, but I'm still embarrassed, you know.
Yes, right.
So for that reason, this is what we do. To make sure that we represent the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad right and exact, and that we represent the teachings, and that we also represent the minister, that we check ourselves before we leave our homes.
That's right.
That was a lifetime lesson for me. So that was one. I could go on for days, but those were the memorable stories. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I know you have a whole treasure chest full of beautiful stories. That need to be told. That need to be told.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
All praise be to Allah. Let me ask you, as an MGT captain, then and now, because once a captain, always a captain. What are some of the things you try to impress on the sisters, that you would like to see, not only for the sisters in the mosque, but Black women in general? Some of the things that you were taught or you wanted to see come to fruition.
That's a loaded question, Brother Xavier.
Yes, ma'am.
I think, well, I know. I really, really want what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted for us, what Master Farad Muhammad wanted for us, and even right now, what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wants for us. I think that we kind of, I'm saying this very, very humbly. I know when we first started, back when the minister first came back, we wanted to make sure that we were just doing everything as right and exact as we could. Yes, we wanted to make sure that the way we were dressing was right. We didn't want to mix nothing from the world into what we were doing. So much to the point that when the sisters came into the mosque, they forgot how to be beautiful. So they became like almost, some of us, not all of us, became grandmother looking. We put the headpieces on. We wore the skirts. Very seldom did you see any of the sisters in pants. They wore like the long skirts, so they would make sure they had the long tunic tops on, that type of thing. But then the minister had to encourage us that we weren't to come into the nation to be homely. We still had to be beautiful and represent. And I think in some regards, we mix too much of the world into who we are as MGT. And so I think that we just have to kind of remember that we are totally different from the world. We need to cut back a lot on the makeup, on the eyelashes, on the extra long fingernails, all those things that are worldly, because Master Farad Muhammad came to give us the teachings, and especially with How to Eat to Live, to show us that we need our inner beauty to come in and then to shine out. And then we didn't need all those things. We didn't need a whole lot of makeup. Sometimes you have to put certain things on to cover up things, but you have a natural beauty that you don't necessarily have to go overboard with. I think I kind of went crazy with that answer there.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, but I think what I want to see with us as women is that we become the new light and the new essence of what womanhood is, which is what Master Farad Muhammad came to show us.
That's right.
That we were to be set on top of the world, not on top of the world to look like the world, but on top of the world to be totally different from what the world produced, and to show what can be produced through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I have to say that the minister, may Allah forever bless and protect him, is doing everything he can to make us that woman.
That's right.
And God bless the sister captain, the national captain. She does everything. She's done some phenomenal things to bring the sisterhood to a different level than we were in the past. And so I thank Allah much for her as well.
Oh, great. Yes, beautiful. That was beautiful. Well said. Yes, ma'am. Give me one of your favorite Brother Abdul Kareem Muhammad stories. I always like to hear. What a couple.
Wow. Okay, there's a million of them.
Yes.
But this one stands out to me all the time. We traveled a lot. We were very, very, very rare that we were stagnant. The weekends were the time we knew we were going to be together. We're going to be somewhere. He was going to be teaching on the minister, or somebody was going to be teaching on Louis Farrakhan. And so one particular, and we were coming up at a time where it was very, very hostile towards the minister.
That's right.
It wasn't a thing. And people were very, very vocal in doing it. It wasn't necessarily the Jewish people community as it is now. It was some of our own folks.
That's right.
That were doing it. And so we knew that when we got into an area, it was going to be a hostile environment. And so, and Brother Kareem was one of those brothers that he said what he said, he meant what he said, and he knew that the believers that were traveling with him had the same spirit that he had. And so he was speaking at this place in Atlantic City. I'll never forget it. And he said, you know, he's talking about the minister. And that's one of the things about Brother Kareem. He wasn't talking about nobody but Farrakhan.
That's right.
And I think that's how we learn to love the
right. He made us, right?
Right, because all he said was, "You're going to do this for Farrakhan. You're going to love Farrakhan. You're going to die. We are going to die for Farrakhan.
That's
Farrakhan
right.
says he needs it. He's going to get it. We're not going to ask no questions. You know, it's done. All he has to say is, I want, I need, and that's it." And so traveling with him, you had that same spirit.
Right.
And so he was teaching, and he said, "I love Farrakhan. You love Farrakhan?" He goes, "You hate Farrakhan?" He goes, "Well, you hate Farrakhan. I hate you for hating Farrakhan." And then he says, "I hate your mother for letting you even be born." And I was standing next to Sister Sharon, who is Brother Ara's wife in Chicago. And we looked at each other, her and her sister Stephanie, and we said, "That's some hellified hatred." Somebody's mother for letting them be born. And that's something that has always stayed in my mind. Whenever Brother Kareem, I said, wow, he's gonna make sure somebody is not gonna be around that hating the minister. You know.
Right.
So, but that's one of my memorable memories with Brother Kareem. And there are many.
Oh yes.
There are so many. Just listening to him talk about the love for the minister. How he, like I said, how he put that love in us for the minister. And I think it's important for people to know too, you know, we had that, it was East Coast, West Coast, Southern region type of competition. So just like Mas Mariam, when it was time for us to purchase Mas Mariam, it was like, do you think the believers can do it? And it was like, yeah, the East Coast is going to do it. Right. You know, the West Coast said they would do it. And Brother Kareem would get on that phone right away and had some of us on the phones as well. Okay, Virginia, what you going to do? Atlantic City, what you going to do? The minister needs $5,000. Get what you can get and call me and tell me what you got. And so just like that, that money was there. You know, believers were taking out loans to make sure that those chairs were put in that mosque, you know, that $500 so they could get their name on the back of a chair. So, you know, there was just a love. It was just a different kind of a love, and you know, that we worked with. So, yes, sir.
And he instilled that. And one of the things I always love about Brother Kareem, he always made all the believers, or if there was an opportunity, to greet the minister.
Yes. Absolutely.
He did not keep the minister to himself.
No, he didn't.
Hey, brother, go greet your minister, brother. Go sit there. And that's what, you know, bond us to him, or one of the things, you know, that made us bond to him. And I always appreciate that.
The other thing I think that was with that too, Brother Xavier, was that, like I was saying earlier, we were always on the road with the minister. Right. You know, bus loads. You know, it was time, you know, the minister's going to be in Boston. Okay, well, back then, of course, we only paid like maybe $10, $20 to get on the bus, which was a lot of money to us, whatever. But we didn't care about that. It was like, we're going to secure the minister. I can remember times when we would leave Newark and go to Boston on a Saturday, then have to take a bus right back down to Newark the next day and get ready for the Sunday meeting in Newark. Right. So there was no time to rest. It was just, and we wasn't like, oh God, we got to do this again. It was like we was looking forward to the weekend. Okay, we're going to take care of the minister, and we could have went to Boston like maybe 3 times in a month. We're going down to Washington D.C. We're going down to Baltimore. You know, Christ's imminent return. You know, how many times did we have to go back down into D.C. for that, or go to Philadelphia? And it wasn't a thing where, you know, let Philadelphia take care of Philadelphia. It's like, no, this is the East Coast. We're going to take care of it. You know, we even had Unity Sundays.
Yeah, you know, about that.
Right. Once a month, you know, we would get in cars from Newark, Jersey City, wherever, on not down so far down as Virginia, what have you, but at least in that tri-state area. Right. And we would get in cars and meet up on Sundays for First Sunday. And New York couldn't wait for Jersey to get there, because y'all be looking out the window on Eastern Parkway.
Come on.
The brothers would jump out the cars, open up the doors. The sisters would pop. It wasn't no lollygagging. No. You know what I'm saying? The sisters would get up, grab the children, run up to the steps. You know, it was like fast moving. You know, that kind of stuff. We weren't sitting around trying to be cute. It was like, we're going to the mosque meeting.
That's right.
Everybody was there on time. You know, Newark was not showing up late, and not with Brother Kadir.
Right, right.
Kadir would leave you in the background. You know, you wasn't getting in the car to get to New York if you was going late, because he didn't want to hear about it.
Exactly.
So there was it was a different kind of a training process, and that's only because we were young. The minister had just come back, so there was a different kind of a fire.
Right.
You know, but we were always ready to go. You know,
That's right.
from the top of the United States down to the bottom.
That's
you know,
right.
Ready to go. But the East Coast always made sure that we was represented and we was doing it right. And it was the general, Brother Kareem, that kept us on that post to do that.
Yes, man.
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned something that brought back memory to me. We used to travel Saturday night and get back wee hours in the morning, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and there was no excuse for you to be late for your 2 o'clock meeting.
Absolutely. Right. And that's the other thing. The meeting started at 2 o'clock back then on Sunday. Right. So, and then we would stay at the mosque until who cares what time of night.
Right.
You know, because we just wanted to be around the believers. You know, I can remember, you know, the children, wasn't fair to them. They would be sleeping on the floors while we were sitting around drilling. You know, everybody wanted to drill, you know, so that was exciting for us. Just drill and just being camaraderie around, you know, believers was just something that we just wanted to do. So, and I think because we traveled like that also, we knew each other better. Right. Like, it wasn't like New York is New York, Newark is Newark. It's like, we are family.
Right.
And so I knew sisters from Boston. I knew sisters from, you know, I didn't have to wait till Savior's Day to get to do that. You know, we were always doing something together. Right. Like if New York had a dinner, everybody was going to come over to New York and support the dinner and be there. If Jersey had a dinner, everybody from New York was going to come to Jersey and do the dinner. They would come up as far as Washington, D.C. I can remember Brother Wali, the editor of the Final Call, and his wife, Sister Zenobia, coming to the little Plainfield, I don't know what it's called, community center. And he had his saxophone. And he played his saxophone. It was a little simple dinner. We had bowls, beans, soup, and I don't even remember what the meal was, but Sister Rosemary was in the kitchen and she was getting that food out, you know. So
whipping up something, huh?
Right. And he played his saxophone. So we just knew each other. We were really, really and truly was a Muslim family from all over.
That's right. That's right.
Praise be to Allah.
And yeah, and that bond still sticks to this day.
Absolutely. Because you was like you, Sister Sharima, all those other brothers, y'all were the younger group. I was still young, but I was like 19, 20, 21 at the time, but you all were teenagers. Right. And so these were young people coming in, helping the minister rebuild the nation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Let's move to a very famous part of our history, famous date. I'm just going to say 3 words: Madison Square Garden.
Oh gosh, that was a phenomenal day. That was a very, very phenomenal day. That was the first time that that was going to be our Savior's Day. Right. People didn't know that, but Savior's Day was going to be changed around a little bit. We were going to be celebrating the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday as Savior's Day because we were taught that he was actually our Savior.
Our Savior, right.
Right. And then Master Farad Muhammad's birthday would be celebrated in February, but not that we would be going to Chicago, but that we would be fasting and just celebrating his birthday as the birthday. But Madison Square Garden, that's when the height of that Jewish stuff really started to kick in because, you know, I did Jesse Jackson campaign and what have you. But that was a phenomenal night because the people came out in droves. And what we didn't do during that first time, we didn't charge people to come and see the minister. They came for free. Right. And if you've ever been to Madison Square Garden, you know there's different levels of it, you know, different color codes and all that kind of a thing. And of course, we did the check procedure was a separation. So the men had to go on one side, the women had to go on the other side. So it's not like we do now where people can come in and they can sit basically wherever they want to, or they can sit next to who they come with. They were separated. And so being that they were separated, it made for people not getting to see who they came in with, you know, that type of thing. So the numbers just kept coming and coming, and it got to the point where we couldn't even control it.
Right.
You know, I remember walking up to Dr. Collett, Brother Collett at the time. He was what, the National Supreme Captain or whatever?
He was the Minister of Defense.
Right, Minister of Defense. And that's when they started pushing on those doors. And to actually see them doing that, and because as a captain, you get to walk around, and you have to walk around and be aware of every single thing that's going on. To actually see those people pushing on those doors and knowing that they're going to break at any minute. And that just goes to show that they wanted to hear what the minister had to say. Right. And so I said to Brother Collett, I said, Brother Collett, we can't control, not that we couldn't control them, because we always have control, but there were just so many people coming. Like, what are we supposed to do? And Brother Collett goes, just let them in. He goes, that's all we can do. We just got to let them in. And there were no seats, like, you know, the stairwells where people were sitting in the stairs section. So if you had to go to the bathroom, they had to get up and move so that you could actually walk down the steps. That place, and I've been to the garden for several concerts, but that place was packed to the brim. And that was the first time that the sisters came out and protected the minister.
Right, right.
And, you know, and that was a surprise, because you see all these beautiful sisters come out with the white and the red uniforms and what have you. And it was just like, okay, we're getting ready to roll on this. And I remember when they picked some of the sisters from the area, and they made it very, very clear, if you're not ready to die tonight, then there's no need of you being here. You know, because we're going to protect the minister.
That's right.
So, and it was the minister's daughters. And it was like, if anything happened to our father, we're coming back for you. And that was the night that somebody set the place on fire.
Right. They're trying to start a fire.
They tried to start a fire so they could start confusion in there, but Allah made us aware of what was going on, and that was taken care of. Different things were going, you know, and the people, when they left, when the minister says it was peaceful, when you walked out that door, you wouldn't even have known that there were that many people that it came to that. It was just that you had to be there to appreciate it.
Exactly.
You know, they really truly did. So.
And that, inside, we had incidents with the police, the Jews.
Yeah.
And you got to give it to Brother Collett, Dr. Collett. Right. He went out there, and the Jews is on the corner where we were at. He told them, if you don't get your such and such over somewhere else and take it from there,
right?
Because they had we want Farrakhan. How do we want him?
Dead. Exactly.
And he said, no, you got to take that over there, or it's going to be a real problem.
And the brothers were ready for that. Between Brother Captain Sterling, there was Brother Theodore, and, you know, all those brothers, you know, that energy and that adrenaline was just such, and to the sisters too. You know, it was like, if somebody want to get funky up in here, y'all better be ready, because it's going down tonight. And it was just no question about, it's like, I got your back, you got mine, don't worry about it. Yeah. So yes, that was a phenomenal night, and they didn't get what they wanted. Right,
exactly.
Right, but that message was very, very clear.
I mean, that place was on fire.
Yes.
Ooh, I mean, the energy inside there.
I mean, the walls were almost shaking. It was just like when the minister walked in, it was like a uproar. Like, it was like, wow. And it was just like a shaking that took place. It was just really, really something else.
And I like to say to anyone who's watching this, go back and revisit that video and try to get some of the energy that was in it, because that roof was, they said the roof is on fire.
Right, it was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's exactly Funkadelics, it was the minister. And then I remember Shaka Khan came up at the end, and she sang. You know, see, a lot of people have been following the minister for a long, long time.
Right.
You know, Shaka Khan, I remember Ashford and Simpson came to the Armory. And you know, the garden wasn't the first time that the minister came back.
No.
The first time that the minister came back to the city was at Community College.
City College, right.
And the speech was Liberty or Death.
Liberty or Death. May 18th, 1980.
That's right. And that was a phenomenal day as well. I remember one of the things that I think that's one of the speeches that we don't really have that you can go back and get. I would think
I have that tape.
Well, I mean, well, we do because we were there.
Right.
I don't know if that's archived, but I would recommend, you know, if it is archived at the Final Call building, that that's a speech that everybody needs to hear, because that's one of the times when he came out to defend the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the domestic life. You know, he said, I remember him saying, if you can defend,
and that was one of the first to establish the nation.
Right. Absolutely.
1400 years ago, right?
Right.
How come you can't defend a man today?
Right. Who raised you from the dead? And I remember he beat down on the rostrum and the books went all over. We was like, oh, he's fired up, you know. So, but yeah, so that was a very, 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 very good speech.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I mean, those times like that, you know, those are the building blocks that we are building on today.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people need to know that's the foundation.
Absolutely.
You know, you might see a skyscraper, but how did that building get like that? What was the framework? What was the basement like? What, you know,
right.
What are the bricks and mortars that put this thing in place?
Right.
You know?
Yes, sir. I just lost my thought, but I was gonna say, I think when the Jesse Jackson campaign, you know, the minister speaks a lot about that. And he talks about how, you know, we supported Jesse Jackson. I think that it's important that brothers and sisters know that the minister supported Jesse Jackson even when Jesse Jackson wasn't present. You know, there were times I traveled with the minister, Brother Akbar, and Brother Kareem, because the minister was going around to different boroughs of the city, you know, Queens and Brooklyn, and little dives, weren't even like great big places and stuff. And so there were times when we were the only three able to do security. Nobody showed up.
Wow.
And so Brother Akbar looked at me and he goes, well, Sister Dawn, you're going to have to check. He goes, just do a weapons check. You know, we're not going to do a full body check, you know, and you're going to have to do the sisters. I'll do the brothers, and Brother Kareem will be on the rostrum, you know, looking up taking care of the minister. So it wasn't always where a whole lot of people were there, you know, with the minister, you know, but when he says that he supported Jesse Jackson during his campaign, he did exactly that. You know, he went all over the country to get the support for Jesse Jackson. And he went you know, not with a whole lot of people to protect him. You know, and that which leads me to say and to understand how Allah has protected him from the very beginning of the whole entire, you know, rise and rebuilding of the nation. And to be able to look back on it now, even while I'm sitting here talking to you, to talk about times when it wasn't a whole lot of folks.
That's right.
That Allah has really, really protected the ministers. That's right. And continues to do so. And it just bears witness to the fact that because he has been so steadfast in his love for us, his love for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, that Allah really does, you know, look out. And if we would just follow just a small example of what he does, Allah would do the same thing for us as well.
That's right. That is so true.
So, yeah. So I thank Allah much for being in the beginnings. It also helps me to appreciate him.
Right.
Because you can, you know, the minister is, you know, it pains me. We're all like, roo rah rah, the minister, you know, but we don't really, I think it's sometimes, we really go to his heart. You know, do we think that the minister cries? Is he in pain sometimes, just worrying about us and just, you know, what he knows Allah is going to bring to us and what have you? You know, it's not all smiles and it's not all fun and games. You know, his heart is really, you know, like a mother's weary just knowing what her children are getting ready to face. You know, but knowing that for 40 years, and then when I think about it, because I was like 19, 20, and if it pleases Allah, I'll be 62 in a couple of weeks. When I think about 40 years of this man doing all that he did, never asked for nothing, you know, just sacrificed his family, his children, his wife, and grandchildren. And then I remember him saying too, you know, his grandchildren will have to listen to teachers and whatnot talk about him, but in a negative way. You know, so if we go back to what he had to deal with in the, newspaper wise, what was in the news at the time that the minister was speaking,
right?
You know, and what they tried to do to him back then, you know. And so we have to love and appreciate him,
right,
because he has done so much, he has sacrificed so much, and he continues to do so and never complains.
That's right.
So, you know, it's really something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Really, truly is.
You, like you said, 40 years of a man trying to do good and people throwing shots at him every chance they get.
Yeah.
Black people. I'm not talking about Jews and whoever.
Yeah,
us. Trying to do for us, and all we can do is try to take shots at him and try to bring him down. And all he has is love and compassion for our people.
In spite of being called names and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of it is amongst Muslims, you know. Even like we're still here, Brother Xavier, by Allah's grace. Mm-hmm. But there are those who traveled with us and worked from the very beginnings, and to think that they have turned.
Right.
You know, and gone
saw the beginnings, yes.
Right. And worked and struggled with us. And it's like, mm-hmm. You know, and then you're going to give up now, you know. So may Allah, you know, bless your soul with whatever's coming to you, per se. But
whatever you deserve.
Right, exactly. You're gonna reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you may have sown it in the beginning, but you're not sowing it anymore. You're gonna reap what you sow.
That's right.
You know.
So. He's the winner. He's gonna win.
Exactly.
No matter what people have come at him with, he's always come out victorious.
Exactly.
And there's gonna be no changing from now into the future. And, you know, so all those who wish the minister otherwise, you know, like the minister said, die in your rage.
Right. You know? And it just goes to show too, you know, he hasn't been here all these years. If he wasn't who he says he is now, he could have never made it this far.
Exactly.
You know, because so many haven't, you know, and so, you know, shame on you. Shame on you for, you know, for being a doubter. You know, all I can say is I pray that Allah bring your mind back, if unless he chooses to make you lose it altogether.
Right.
You know, so.
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that Jesse Jackson part, that he didn't just get up and speak and say vote for Jesse. He really
no.
Yeah, and then like he said, he asked the believers, and we as believers, you know, me personally, I never, as a young person, never cared for Jesse Jackson. You know, as you know, growing up as a teenager and stuff, and you know, I had friends who talked about him because of his push movement and all that kind of stuff. I never cared for him per se, and when I watched him, sometimes I was just like, this man just does not love the minister. It's my own personal opinion. And I didn't want to support him, but because of my love for the minister,
you follow instruction.
And you know, we're going to do, you know, then I grew to love what we were doing with that, and understood why we had to do it. And so, and that falls in line with, you know, when he says, what Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when he tells you to do something, do it.
That's right.
You know, doesn't mean that you can't have any question in the back and say, well, what, you know, but don't doubt. You know, if he says do it, then it means it's supposed to be done.
Right, even if you don't understand, just follow the
then you'll get understanding later, right? And so, and the understanding came. It didn't change my life for him, but it was, I'm helping my minister, so that was it.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people don't know the minister told the FOI to secure him.
Oh yeah.
And the FOI secured him before the Secret Service came.
Absolutely.
And when the Secret Service came, the FOI was securing the Secret Service because they had guns around us. We had 2 brothers on each Secret Service agent. People don't know that.
Right.
And when we were there until they took over, and we slowly kind of backed away, but we still was watching.
Right.
Still watching. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
So, you know, that's all a part of that history.
Absolutely.
You know, and all praise due to Allah, you know, nothing came to him. And the minister said, if you harm this one, this will be the last one you harm.
And you know,
that's when the Jews came out.
Right. And it's funny too, because like brothers like Brother Captain Sterling, I remember a time when we bringing the minister to Newark, And we put posters up. Well, the brothers put posters up, and the people in town were taking them down and ripping them off. And then Brother Sterling had a bunch of brothers, a group of brothers, and they were all teenagers, 15, 16, 17, nobody any older than that. They were on the corner of Broad and Market Street, passing flyers in the newspapers. And of course, we were in the mosque meeting having the, Sunday meeting. And so all of a sudden, Brother Sterling comes running in the door with the brothers, and he goes, Sister Dawn, get the sisters together. We're sending them home. Tell them don't ask no questions, just move out. Get home, don't call their husbands, and wait for their husbands to come home, and maybe some of them are not even coming home.
Wow.
And so back then, we were into that hear and obey mode, and that's where, follow instructions, do what you got to do, ask questions later. And so sisters gathered their children up, took them and got home, and we didn't find out until later that the brothers started a fight with the FOI and with these little juniors. And these little 15, 16-year-old brothers put their hands up. It was like this, we're going down for Farrakhan. Brother Sterling said, one swing, we all swinging. And they put up that fight. Yeah. Of course, Allah made them the victor. And and then the wives found out, that they said, well, Sister Dawn, what? And I said, don't ask me no questions. Brother said, this is what we got to do. I need y'all to move out and get home, secure your homes, and wait for your husbands to come home. And so that was a different kind of a vibe too. Sometimes now we have too much question asking.
Right. Everybody get on the phone.
Why we got to do that?
Everybody get on the phone and call this person.
Right. Did your husband get home yet? No. Right. That's not security. The security mode was wait and follow the instructions. And I remember in MGT class, this is not to give out information for the class, but we were learning the general orders. And so I told a sister, I said, reason why you need to learn how to hear and obey and not question. I said, for example, I'm standing in front of you. And if I say to you right now, sister, when I count to 3, move left, you don't have time to ask me why. Because I'm looking at what's behind you. Somebody could be getting ready to shoot you. And I'm telling you on the count of 3, move left. And if you take the time to ask the question and I move right to your left, you're going to get shot. Because you didn't want to hear and obey. You wanted to ask a question. And all that was part of drilling. Right. Hearing and obeying, left face, right face, about face, original salute, ready front. It was all about hearing the command, getting it drilled into your head, and just moving out and doing what you had to do. You didn't have time. Somebody said left face. Well, don't you want us to go right? No, I want you to go left. Right. That was that here. And then once you get to learn how to do that on this level, then when Allah gets to talking to you and he tells you to move and you get to move and you start listening to Allah, as opposed to listening to the second voice, which is the devil's creeping in. So we just have to, putting that doubt in your mind. So that's one of the things I just wanted to say too. That story sticks in my mind also because we've had incidences in New York.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Where the police came in and the sisters, had to be told, we got to move out. Grab your children and get ready to go. Sometimes it's not no means to talk and say a whole lot of stuff. It's just practice doing certain things that'll save your life.
Yes, ma'am.
And hearing and obeying.
Yes, ma'am. And you brought up something that came to my mind since we having this fireside chat. We were talking about Brother Kareem being a general. It was a time, a couple of times, the word got out, brothers, in New York, we had to meet at a certain corner. We had to meet at a certain corner, and we had to go to Philadelphia. No questions, don't call nobody, don't ask nobody, be there and get in the car. And I'm talking about a 2.5-hour ride. Right. No one says a word. Everyone's just anticipating what's going on. And we get to Philadelphia, and the word was, don't get out your car 5 minutes before, don't get out your car 5 minutes after. On the dot, I think it was 2 o'clock, I can't remember the time. Right. He got in the car, all the brothers assembled. Brother Kareem was there, and he said, brothers, this was just a drill. Thank you, assalamu alaikum. And we was like, what? We got back in our cars, we ran home. And this was the type of training that we had to go under because we were, like I said, we was under attack from everybody.
Right.
We had no time to question, second guess, and doubt what the instructions we got, and we just had to move out. And I wish we had 25%, 50% of that today. Well, we don't get on the phones, brother. Did you get that call? What you think it is? And
Right.
here in our bed, bam.
I will say something to that. I remember being Brother Kareem and Brother Minister Farrakhan, and Brother Kareem was talking to the minister, and he said to the minister about Brother Captain Sterling, he said, oh yeah, Brother Sterling, he tests the brothers all the time. That he'll call them up and tell them he wants to, this, that, the other. And the minister didn't like that. He said, brothers, you don't never have to test the brothers for their love of me. He said, when you call them out like that, he said, you're taking them away from their families and their wives and their children. I mean, if it's a real situation, and this is what his point was, he said, when you take them away from their wives and their children and something happens to their children while they're away on a drill, then that falls on us. He goes, they should be in their homes protecting their families. He said, and then if it gets to the point you do that too often, then the ones who really would do it, they won't come because you crying wolf. So it has its upside, but then there's, then people take advantage of certain situations too.
That's true too. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Definitely.
So
it's got to be done in discretion. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Right. But what the reward for that is that if something was going on and with the minister, then everybody would be prepared for it. And a good example of that was the case where I told on another interview where all the brothers were in New York City. The minister took a flight in from Chicago, but because it was, and he was supposed to speak, and because it was a real heavy fog, he couldn't land in New York. He had to land in New York, but everybody was in New York waiting for him at the airport. And so because of that, there was no security there. And so I get the call from Linwood Jr., you got to pick the minister up. And he had Brother Theron with him, his son Joshua, and all of the equipment in their luggage. And so the minister was a little perturbed because he had to wait for a long time before they figured out what they were going to do. So he didn't travel with a security team. He just traveled with the Supreme Captain. And then, of course, Joshua would travel with him because he was in charge of making sure that tapes and stuff were taken care of. So there are a lot of lessons that we learned in coming up that we would never do now. If you're coming into New York, then we know that there's a skeleton crew that's got to stay back in Philadelphia area or in the Newark area in case, something goes on. But everybody's shooting off to, and then nobody had cars. It was one of those things where, well, brothers, you got to make sure you got a car and a working car. I had to learn to keep my car clean because before I even went to pick the minister up, I had to clean my car out. And I was like, wow, this just cannot happen again. To come pick the minister up in a dirty car was not going to do it because I'd already had the headpiece situation. So it's like not going in the car dirty. So, it's just always to be prepared on point and ready to move no matter what.
Yes, ma'am. You always have to keep your car clean and gas in your car.
And exactly.
You don't have time to go get gas, or you just have
right. That split second. Right. That split second of doing something like that could make or break somebody's life, or the time that it takes for you to get someplace. So,
yes, ma'am.
So it was all a lesson.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna wind down, my sister. If you want to have any closing remarks or anything else you want to talk about, we want a conversation between me and you. Nobody else.
Yes, I just want to say that first and foremost that I really appreciate you even thinking of me to want to have a conversation with me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I thank Allah much for being in the nation, for raising me to be a Muslim. I thank Allah over and over again for the opportunities to even be in the minister's presence, to have soldiered under him, work with him. I thank Allah for all the believers from the very, very beginnings to the present. And this is a great journey.
Yes.
And we have a lot more work to do. And even though we have done a whole lot of work in the past, the past won't mean anything unless we continue the work today.
That's right.
And so, so I thank Allah much for the forum that you gave me a chance to speak, and to all those who are listening, I pray Allah that it was informative and I don't want to say entertaining for you because we're not trying to entertain,
right.
But it does give you a little insight into the history of what the nation, what our humble beginnings were that got us to where we are right now. And so may Allah continue to bless all of us to be strong and steadfast, and to be helpful and supportive of our beloved minister, and to do the right thing to make the nation the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation, Sister Dawn.
Yes, sir.
You are one of the pivotal stones that in the rebuilding. You was the East Coast captain.
Praise
you know, so you had a vital role that you did play, and you still have a vital role to today. And I thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I thank you for blessing me on this platform, and I'd like to thank everyone who are listening. Please hit the like button, subscribe. This is your brother Xavier Muhammad. You're on my channel, Living Life Without Sight. I'd like to thank my son Kareem and my son Candid, who are helping me put this production on. Thank you very much. My sister and everyone else, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll be talking.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.